So I saw the post that you did. I don't know if it's last week or whatever with your nephew.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome, by the way. But I'm kind of new to the whole world of like the ISAs and compression expansion, just that nomenclature terminology. Um, I guess my question is like on an initial assessment like that, let's say you're working with somebody and you're like, oh, okay, well, they're lacking some IR or whatever, and you do one of these like really kind of obscure exercises, right? Where maybe they don't feel like a lot's going on, but then you're like, wow, look, you just picked up 5 degrees of IR. Um, how do you integrate that in a way that is like in like let's say in a strength and conditioning world where someone's coming to you expecting to kind of really feel something. Obviously you want to maybe have them activate certain muscles that they haven't felt before or what have you, but like why like the common person picks up 5 degrees of IR, we're stoked about it, that's great, but they might not feel anything in a sensory way, right? So how do you integrate your system with um, making them feel like they did something and they felt something?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. So a lot of times with the lower level stuff, if you coach it well, it will be challenging. A lot of times people will shake during these things and they'll feel like, whew, they'll start sweating. Like if I get the whew, then I know I picked the right move. That's not uncommon. Like for example, I have someone right now who's she's a runner, a collegiate runner, pretty good, and I put her in very similar positions that I put my nephew in, and she like, I mean, it looks like she's doing a 1 rep max back squat. It's that challenging. So there is that. The key with the earlier move or like the lower level moves is to make sure you're hitting all the components you need because that will create some intensity. But let's say that you're working with someone on the fitness side and you only have so much time. Like that was, 30 minutes of me coaching him through 3 moves, which as a PT patient, totally appropriate. Probably not so on the training side. This is something where I work at Elevate Sports Performance and Healthcare. We do a lot of, we still incorporate the same principles, but our exercise selections are different. So for example, if we look at the moves that I gave my nephew. So I gave him a Lewitt, which is a 90-degree angle at the hips and knees. Well, if I tipped him upright, what would that be?
Just like a seated position, right?
Or what not
Or a
what
squat, I guess.
unsupported? Yeah, 100%. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll coach people like similar cues during the squat, start them with iso holds in those positions. So you could do like a ramp goblet squat iso hold, get them squatting down, and like that will cook a lot of people, and especially if you coach the stack component, because I think a lot of individuals normally when we're talking the way squatting's been coached for however long, you don't get as much quads as you would when you can really get that tuck. Like it works really well in that sense. Same thing with like the wall squat. You could use being in those positions for some of your upper body stuff. So perhaps like say I wanted to go after similar measures like I did with my nephew. So if we use like the wall squat, but I maybe wanted to do something upper body, I could have him sitting in a high depth sit where the hips are higher than the knees, have him squeeze a ball so that way we're still getting some of the same components, but then maybe he's doing a landmine press or maybe he's doing a cable chop or a row. So what you have to think about is I did an assessment. I know what ranges of motion I need to explore. What do I do, or what positions, or yeah, ranges of motion should I put this person in to achieve those goals? And then you can just take the same moves that you're coaching your people with already and just bias some more towards that. So if you got someone, say, who needs shoulder internal rotation, let's say you decided that like that's going to be the thing that's going to turn the tide. Well, if you look at the ranges of motion where shoulder internal rotation is increased, you're looking at 60 to 120 degrees of shoulder flexion. So think about all the moves that you have at your disposal that work in that range. And then the other thing would be humeral extension. So now you're looking at horizontal pushes and pulls, landmines, things like that. So you can still apply the principles in that domain. And with a lot of my training clients, that's what a lot of the programs look like. It's not, this stuff isn't like an isolated, okay, we're going to do this and then just do whatever. It's a way of thinking about movement. And if the goal is to increase someone's available movement in certain areas, you can do just about anything.